We've got Crédit Agricole's Global Head of Foreign Exchange Strategy now, Kotecha, joins us from Hong Kong. Mr. Kotecha, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. So, we've seen widespread criticism of the U.S. decision to expand stimulus. China isn't happy about it. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said she wants U.S. money supply on the agenda at G20. What can we expect from G20 leaders on the issue of currencies?
Well, I think the reality is we probably can't expect a lot. I think finding an agreement with so many diverse views is going to be very, very difficult indeed. And, you know, on the one hand, we have the U.S. clearly wants China to revalue the yuan and therefore allowing other Asian currencies to strengthen more significantly and, I guess, rebalance the currency markets. And on the other hand, as you mentioned, many countries are blaming the U.S. for debasing the dollar by printing money. So it's very difficult to see an agreement. The expectations of some targets for current accounts seem to have been shot down. So I just really can't see where this is going to end up, to be honest, after this meeting.
Of course, a great deal of talk about a currency war between the U.S. and China. How concerned would you be about more liquidity from stimulus leaking out of the U.S. economy?
Well, I think investors are searching for any real return at the moment, and the reality is that Asia is benefiting from this in some ways. Fundamentally, Asia looks pretty solid. We can see a huge amount of capital flowing into Asia as its liquidity globally is increasing. And I don't see any reversal in that. And, of course, we're seeing a lot of resistance, of course, from many central banks in the region, not just in Asia, but in a lot of emerging markets, to these hot money inflows. And I think that's what's going to continue. And it appears, I guess, that the IMF and other countries have given tacit approval for these type of controls to be implemented.
So what does this all ultimately mean for the global imbalances that we keep talking about that led to the financial crisis in the first place?
Well, again, I think imbalances are going to be something that's going to continue for some time. I think what we probably will see constructively is the IMF charged with finding some sort of a solution, whether it's trying to come out with a sustainable level of the current account, whether it's looking at valuations of currencies to determine what's fairly valued or not, and perhaps enforcing that, perhaps adding taxes or giving taxes or imposing taxes, on countries that go beyond their deficits or targets on the current account, or at least ranges on the current account. But I think it's going to be a long and drawn-out process. In the meantime, of course, the U.S. is going to keep on buying assets. We know that $600 billion is the initial amount of assets to be bought, and that could continue to be even more in the coming months.
Mitchell, would you say that the dollar pessimism that we saw in the market ahead of the QE2 announcement is now ebbing away?
I think to some extent, yes. I think the reality is that the dollar had already priced in a great deal of quantitative easing. It, after all, had fallen close to 14% before the Fed announcement. It's made up a little bit of ground now, so it's in a sense, it's sell on rumour, buy on fact. And I think that pretty much typifies what was priced into the dollar at the time. If you have to look at positioning, it's been very short US dollars. And I think going forward, we may see the dollar remaining weak. It's difficult to see the dollar recover when the Fed keeps on printing money. But I don't see a rapid decline in the dollar from these sort of levels.
And the prospect for the euro in light of resurfacing concerns about sovereign debt risk in Europe?
Well, the euro, in my view, the only reason the euro was up where it was, above 140 at the time, was because of the recycling of intervention flows from Asian central banks. And I think that flow seems to have slowed down. I think, as you say, we've seen resurfaced concerns about European peripheral debt. I think the euro itself is overvalued, and I think it is very vulnerable to further declines in the coming months. I don't see a rapid decline again, but I think the euro up here looks rich. And I think it's going to create a real problem for southern European countries and actually the northern European.
Great to talk to you. Kotecha, Global Head of FX Strategy at Crédit Agricole. Thank you very much.